Yeah. Thank you, Keenan. No, are we there? 1, 2. 1, 2. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Keenan, and the team for leading us so well this morning. Thank you for praying for me. I really appreciate that, and encourage you to continue praying for me whenever I bring the message, because I certainly don't want it just to be me banging on. I want it to be God speaking through His Word to you, by His Spirit to you, speaking to each of us, challenging us. Okay. Just while I get my electronics behaving themselves. All right. Almost there. Thanks for your patience with me. Yeah, it's great to be back. What a year 2014 was. So many challenges, and God proved Himself faithful in every one. And some of you I haven't seen since before Christmas, and I just want to say a big thank you to all of you who stepped up last year. God is raising you and I up to be ministers here to this community in His name. I'm so proud of you guys, the way the team came together for the Carols by Candlelight. You guys were amazing. It was so exciting to see so many of you discover talents that you didn't know you had, and you really took it on, and it's so exciting to see. Although our holiday was broken up a bit, I wouldn't have missed coming back to Kalgoorlie for the farewell to Mrs. George. What a special day that was. And we're going to miss her being here. But what a celebration of an amazing life that was. And it's great to meet Sean and Sherry's family, and some real characters there. Yeah, it was great. Last week, I'm so glad many of you got to meet my mate Brad Kappa and his cousin. They call themselves the Kappa Bros, but they're cousins. Brad has been an inspiration to me for many years. As a young Christian, he really took me under his wing as a musician and in ministry. We played in all sorts of places, from the streets, busking on the streets, to prisons, pubs, immigration detention centres, wherever we're invited, basically. And I've seen God use Brad in amazing ways, and I believe He did last week too. So I'm really excited to hear of how blessed that time was. And let me know if you want Brad and his cousin to make some more road trips in the future. But all this to say, and I know I've said it this morning, we are so glad to be back. I'm excited because I believe God has taught my family and I so much last year about how He wants to minister through us, how He wants us to do ministry. I'm not saying it's a formula. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying God really wants us to walk by faith. He really wants us to walk by faith and not by sight. I've really enjoyed the challenge of preaching through Romans with Sean and Morris and Westy. And today we come to a great chapter of Romans chapter 12. I'd just like you to, if you have a Bible with you, read with me. We're going to read through chapter 12, and then there's a particular message from Romans chapter 12 that I believe the Lord has for us today. Romans chapter 12. Paul writes, Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing and perfect will. For by the grace given me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment, in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honour one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervour, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace. Live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. We've journeyed through Romans. I've encouraged you to especially look at it as a courtroom. You know, Paul is describing a courtroom. It's the first 11 chapters, of course, very, very deep in many parts of Romans, deep theology. Some of it really had us racking our brains, the challenging theology, but so worthwhile as we dig deeper into Romans. And now we get to Romans 12, and I believe this is Paul being practical. He's saying this is what Christianity looks like as you really live it, as you really walk the walk and not just talk the talk. Weep with those who weep. We wept with the George family as we celebrated Mrs. George's passing, celebrated her life and remembered her wonderful testimony. We rejoiced, many of us rejoiced down in Perth at the wedding of Estienne and Lucinda. Wasn't that beautiful? Absolutely stunning day. This is Paul in chapter 12 being practical. This is what Christianity looks like. Robert L. Deffenbaugh, a biblical scholar, says this of Romans chapter 12. The theological foundation has been laid. Now the apostle moves to the practical outworking of righteousness in the life of the Christian. The initial response of the Christian to the grace of God should be the dedication of himself to God as a living sacrifice. The only reasonable act of worship is that which begins with the sacrifice of self in devoted service to God. Since every Christian has a different capacity for service due to differing spiritual gifts, the Christian must first of all exercise his renewed mind in the contemplation of the capacities for service, which God has given, and then devote himself to those ministries. Here in the first few weeks of a new year, I sincerely hope you haven't already broken any New Year's resolutions. How are we going with that? That's good. I like the way you think, Peter. So 100% success rate. Yeah, that's good. However, if you have broken some of those New Year's resolutions, I have some good news of hope for you today. I believe 2015 is still the year when you can make the move from if to then. From if to then. 2015, we can make the move from if to then. I'll explain what I mean by that. I believe with all my heart that everyone here has at least one earth-shaking gift that can have a turbocharging effect on other people's lives. Do you ever think that about yourself? I believe everyone here has that. Some of you have a few of these gifts, while others, and it's just not fair, while others have many of these gifts. I also believe that there are many talented people here today not using their gifts. And as a result of this, so many opportunities are wasted and our community is missing out on the impact that the people of God's kingdom should be unleashing. We as God's people must move from if to then. These gifts from God that Paul writes of in this passage are wonderful for sure. They are real. I've seen every one of them in action in God's people. I talked about my friend Brad Kappa. I've seen God do amazing things through him. And I knew very, very early on as a young Christian, God was saying, stick around with him. They're the friends to choose, people. They're the friends to knock about with, spend time with. These gifts are wonderful, but they are utterly useless when they are just if and not then. We must move from if to then. Where did I get this from? If to then? Did you just read that passage with me? Let's read the particular passage I'm looking at in Romans 12 again. We're going to read from verse 6 to 8. Now, you might not have your Bible with you, but you can still be part of this. Excuse me while I revert to school teacher mode. When I hold up this hand, I want you to call out if, okay? And if I hold up this hand, then. Wherever you are, if, then. Are you ready? Verses 6 to 8. Verses 6 to 8 of Romans 12. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. Your gift is prophesying. Prophesy in accordance with your faith. It is serving. Serve. It is teaching. Teach. It is to encourage. Give encouragement. It is giving. Give generously. Now we're going to really mix it up a bit. What I want you to do for me here is, for this next part of the passage, it's going to be if and do it. Okay, if, do it. Are you ready? It is to lead diligently. It is to show mercy cheerfully. Well done. Give yourselves a clap, everyone. We must move from if to then. I believe that's what Paul is telling us. Okay? No more of the if to then. What if Steve and Marilyn just carried on doing the great things they're doing here? We love having them here. But God was talking to them and saying, guys, I've got something amazing for you to do in PNG. And they chatted with each other and said, if I wonder if we should do that. I wonder if we could or would. No more of the if. If this is what God has gifted you to do, is calling you to do, then do it. We've got to move from the if to the then. Paul said your gift may be speaking prophetically. Now, what does prophesying mean? Is it just, in the future, God showed me that, or this is going to happen? That can be part of it. Basically, what speaking prophetically is speaking the truth into the situation, whether it's a situation right now or a situation that is developing. Speaking prophetically. You may be sitting here and you may have that gift. God may have given you that gift and you've never used it. But what does Paul say? He says, prophesy according to the faith you've been given. You might think, I'm a bit tentative about this. Well, just have a crack, have a go. And then watch how people respond if they go, wow, what you encouraged me to do, that was spot on. I went and did it and it worked. That's the result of speaking prophetically as you have faith. And then your faith will grow as you keep using that gift God has given you. Paul said your gift may be serving. Serving is an attitude we certainly need to bring on Sunday mornings. And I see that. And I love that here. But it's even more desperately needed in the community. In our workplace, at school, in our neighbourhood. How can we serve? Many of you have a gift of serving. And you know those promptings that you might get to, that neighbour, just go and knock on their door, say good day, ask them how things are going. You think, no, I can't do that. They'll think I'm creepy. But God might have given you a gift of serving, and that might be how He's calling you to do it. Paul talks about teaching. What's teaching? A little definition I've got for teaching is patiently taking difficult concepts and making them simple for others to understand. Peter Hadfield took me out to the Speedway last year, and it was great. And I love it. I really enjoyed being out there on the push vehicle and watching the action. But I know very little about mechanics, but Pete, it's amazing. He's explaining to me about mechanics, and he's able to do it in a way that I can understand. That's a gift of teaching. Patiently taking difficult concepts and making them simple for others to understand. Paul talks about encouraging. What's encouraging? A little definition. Using well-chosen words as powerful tools for building up others. You might have a gift for just being able to say the right words. No, I know encouraging has become, in some ways, it can be damaging when it's not done properly or well in the church. You might encourage someone as an artist, okay, and in whatever field they're in, but we need to encourage people in the gifts that they have. Okay, I suppose the most damaging example I've seen, and I wouldn't say this is necessarily in the church, is the Australian Idol auditions. You know those auditions they have, and it's great when people who have talent get up and audition and they do well, and then someone gets up to audition for Australian Idol, and you think, who told them they could sing? Someone encouraged them that they could sing. Why did they do that? And you think, okay, they wanted to encourage them, which is good, but it was not a genuine thing. And the result is they went on Australian Idol for the audition and they couldn't sing a note, couldn't carry a tune in a wheelbarrow. And I'm thinking, man, I don't want to see this person being ridiculed. I hate seeing that. And why is it happening? Because someone in their family told them they could sing just because they were trying to be nice. I'm thankful I grew up in a family that never did that. They often told me to shut up. I'm grateful for that. Oh, boy. So I'm not talking about that kind of false encouragement that can do damage and hurt people. I'm talking about if God shows you that someone has a talent and they might not be that aware of it or confident in it, saying, wow, that painting, that is brilliant. You should do more of that. That is fantastic. Just the well-chosen words. God will give you the right words. Words are so powerful, and they can be powerful for encouragement. Paul talks about giving. God's economic system is amazing. Something else I have very little understanding of is economics and the finance report on the news. I just don't get that. But what I do know is that God's economic system is just so counterintuitive to the way the world works. God's economic system just is back to front to the way it's upside down to the way the world works. And I think there's a simple reason why. Back in high school, I remember learning about economics being supply and demand. Supply and demand, or demand and supply. What's the difference? With God, the supply never runs out. The world supplies are always running out, running low. God's supply never runs out. When you give, as those who give generously find, they can never outgive God. The supply will never disappear. It never runs out. Paul talks about the gift of leadership. Have you heard the definition of what a leader is? Look over your shoulder and see who's following. See if anyone's following. Then you'll know if you're a leader. You might find that people just come to you and they're always asking you for advice. They're asking you to help them with a project. They're asking you to work with them, to show them how it's done. You may have a gift of leadership. How else do you know if you could be a leader? Here's one way of finding out. Do you see an operation that could be performed more effectively and wonder why no one has stepped up to do it? That may be because you are the one who needs to lead this change. This is one of the ways I discovered that I'm a leader. I found, and Sandy put up with this for years, I found I'd be whinging about how something was done, in a church we were involved in, or the way they did it, I was just moaning about it all the time, but not offering to help fix it, not offering anything constructive to do it. So there's a fine line between being a leader and just being a critic. If you can see things that are wrong and all you do is point them out and just moan about them, which I did for way too long, then you are just a critic. God might have gifted you as a leader, but you're not functioning as a leader, you're functioning as a critic. There's time for criticism, there's time for that. But a critic who just does that and never offers a solution is damaging. It does damage. There's the fine line. If you're always aware of these issues and how someone should do something to fix them, God may be saying, you're the one. This is why you can see this. I've given you the gift. You need to step up and lead the change. And Paul speaks about the merciful, showing mercy. The definition of merciful, what merciful is, I believe, is the merciful have a deeper grasp of God's forgiveness than the rest of us. The merciful have a deeper grasp of God's forgiveness than the rest of us. Those who have been forgiven much understand God's forgiveness to a deeper level. And you know what? You might have had a real history in your life, and you've seen God move in your life and turn your life around in a profound way. And you've been forgiven of much. That's God's way of giving you that gift of mercy. And that is a wonderful gift, because in the church it reminds those of us who just want to write people off. It's just, I'm fed up with them. They're just, we just can't seem to make it happen. Forget about them. The merciful say, hey, no, I think I know what that person's going through. I think I know what they're struggling with. Let's show mercy here. Let's continue to stand with them, support them, and pray for them. That's the gift of mercy. You might have that gift, and you might not be using it. 2015 is the year to move from if to then. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. And notice what Paul does. He doesn't even say then for these next two. He just says, do it. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. And I just want to conclude with a question. What if Jesus never moved from if to then? He is our example in this. He is our supreme example. We need to move from if to then. What if Jesus never came to earth, died for us, and rose to life? What if he stayed up there in heaven, as he would have had the right to? No one would dispute that. And never came to the earth to fulfill his mission. If Jesus never came to earth, died for us, and rose to life, then we would have no hope of forgiveness. If Jesus never came to earth, died for us, and rose to life, then we could never be free from sin. If Jesus never came to earth, died for us, and rose to life, then our hearts and minds could never be renewed. If Jesus never came to earth, died for us, and rose to life, then our faith would be an empty shell of religious vanity. If Jesus never came to earth, died for us, and rose to life, then we would be lost for eternity. Friends, in 2015, it's time for us to move from if to then. What has God gifted you to do? I want to ask the team to come up. And we have an opportunity here as we move into a time of communion. The team's going to play a wonderful song of dedication. Lead me to the cross. Is that right, guys? Lead me to the cross. Thank you. And as the team play this song, I want you to have your hearts open. Remember that if Jesus had never come, died on the cross for us, rose to life, we would have no hope for eternity. Jesus did what he did, that we could be set free, that we could use the gifts that God has given us to impact this community for his kingdom. Today is an opportunity to dedicate ourselves to 2015, to being those people that God has called us to be, to move from if to then. Thanks, guys.